What's up, guys? My name is Jonathan, and welcome back to the Pack Talk. Today's video is going to be a follow-up to my first video welcoming everybody to the channel. Now we're really going to get things started and start this series going over all 32 NFL teams and my personal take and overview on it. And we're going to have a little fun. I'm going to put some fantasy input on there. I'm going to put my own tangent onto all these teams. So yeah, let's get started. Today we're going to be starting with the A teams, the Arizona Cardinals and the Atlanta Falcons. Most of you, who are football fans don't really need me to go over this, but for those that are unaware, maybe there are some surprises for you in store. So I'm going to go over the team and kind of my own personal take and feel on where this team might be able to go. So at quarterback we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals, by the way. So for the Arizona Cardinals at quarterback, they have Kyler Murray, who just got paid a pretty big contract that pretty much solidifies him into this to this team for the long term. I do have a little bit of worry for him because before the contract, he was talking about leaving and not being happy already, even though he's only been in the league for about 3 years. I think he's going to his 4th year right now. But, maybe, money makes everybody happy. So this contract probably makes him happy. He wants to play for Arizona. I know that. And hopefully he's locked in. I remember the clause he had, though, in that contract was dumb and very controversial. I don't know why Arizona would even think about putting that clause into his contract. You just have to trust that every quarterback is going to do their job diligently, and if they don't, that's on the business to look at it and make decisions about that. There doesn't need to be an independent study clause. That's my own opinion. So anywho, moving on, their backup is Colt McCoy, which in my opinion is probably one of the best backups in the league to have if Kyler Murray goes down, so that's pretty good for them. At running back, they have James Conner, and at their backup running back is Darrell Williams. They picked him up this offseason. I didn't even know that. That was news to me. They're pretty loaded at wide receiver. I'd like to say that they have a pretty foundational wide receiver core that Kyler Murray can spread the ball around and not go to one player. Of course, at wide receiver 1, they have DeAndre Hopkins. However, he is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. I think it's 6. Yeah, 6 games of the season for PED use. Their newcomer at wide receiver 2 most likely will be Marquise Brown or Hollywood Brown, however you want to call him. That's a pretty good pickup to the already loaded core that they had last year, in my opinion. They had a pretty good core. They just, fell apart at the end of the season. At wide receiver 3, they have AJ Green still. And I'm even going to include him at wide receiver 4, probably, as a slot receiver. They have Rondale Moore, who had some flashes last season. At tight end, they have Zach Ertz, which is very dependable. And kicker, they have Matt Prater, probably one of the best kickers in the league still. Even though he is kind of, he's kind of wishy-washy on his kicks lately, but, any team would still want to have him. He's reliable to kick from 60 still. Okay, here's some notable defensive players that they have. Even though, he's kind of on the upside of age, but they have J.J. Watt at left defensive end. They have Budda Baker at free safety, Isaiah Simmons right inside linebacker, and then Byron Murphy at corner. That's a pretty solid star defense there. They didn't do too shabby last year on defense. It's just the same thing with the Arizona Cardinals, is that they keep falling apart at the end of the season, and that's on Cliff Kingsbury. He needs to form a better plan, like after their bye week. All these teams adjust. It seems like they stay with the same game plan throughout the whole season, and that's just not going to win it in the NFL. Now to have a little bit of fun here, I play fantasy football. Millions of people play fantasy football. And I just want to put my spin on maybe the top 3 fantasy choices. Now, basically, noticing going through this, my top three, and I also include some notable players to include maybe on your fantasy team. That's basically is the whole entire offense, but like, take it as you will. My top three are basically fundamental. I think that you need to have on your fantasy roster, and your notable is like, you can pick them up or you don't want to, depending on how you feel. So my top three fantasy, definitely Kyler Murray. Now, even though I think he had somewhat of a fluke year, he had a very good year in Pittsburgh, and then I think he was injured. I mean, I can't really blame him for that, but he kind of fell a little bit after his first year with Pittsburgh, but then he got traded to Arizona, and then he had sort of a resurgence with Arizona and was a pretty, he was a top 10 fantasy back. James Conner, I'd probably put it too. And then my third best, if you play with defenses, my Arizona defense probably is going to be a top 10 fantasy defense. They haven't lost any big pieces, so they should stay the same defense, even though they play in that division, so you might be a little wary on that, but I'd still pick them up. My notable, I only put DeAndre Hopkins in the notable because I don't know exactly how he's going to fare after his suspension. I had him on my team last year. He got injured, yes, but he was very on and off. You don't know what kind of receiver you're going to get out of with him, and like I said, with that loaded wide receiver core, there's plenty of mouths to feed at wide receiver. Also notable, Zach Ertz, probably on the low end of tight ends. There are plenty other good tight ends to pick up in draft. Marquise Brown at 3, and then even Matt Prater is, like I said, pretty fundamental kicker at 4 for notable. Overall, I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be a pretty formidable team in this league still. I still think they can get north of 10 wins, which, now with the 17-game season might not be enough to make the playoffs, but, there's just been a lot of noise in Arizona, and noise doesn't really equal success in this league because there are a lot of distractions going on with that. But I still think they can pull out 10 wins even with DeAndre Hopkins out for 6 games. The defense might just have to step it up a little bit, and then Kyler Murray's just got to keep playing exceptional the whole year. Okay, now we're going to go to the Atlanta Falcons. Again, same format. We're going to go through the whole team and then my fantasy input on what this team can do and, overall success on what this team may be. So the Atlanta Falcons at quarterback, they got rid of Matt Ryan in the offseason, which is a pretty big blow. Even though Matt Ryan, people have their opinions, different opinions on him. Is he good? Is he not good? I think he is still an above average quarterback. So for them to lose him is, pretty tough. But they traded him and they picked up Marcus Mariota from the Raiders, I believe he came from. So that's who they have at quarterback. And they drafted Desmond Ridder in this past draft. So that's kind of interesting. Can't wait to see what that quarterback battle will play out to be. But I think Marcus Mariota basically has the job. Desmond Ridder doesn't have to start right away, which is pretty good for him. I think that quarterbacks that watch a quarterback play throughout a season or half a season or whatnot before they're actually forced to play a season is better off, even though Justin Herbert had no problem with that at all. I think he only sat one game, and then Tyrod Taylor punctured his lung, and he went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in his first game that he started. So, but Justin Herbert's a different animal. We'll get more to him when we get to the Chargers. At running back, they have Cordell Patterson. I'm just going to kind of go through this because not a lot of, star names and, punch names and all that. They also have Damian Williams at running back 2 at wide receiver. They have Calvin Ridley, who, again, he's suspended for gambling, which, that's also another topic that I might make a whole other video on. He's suspended the whole year, which is pretty hefty compared to other fines that the NFL has given out. And they drafted Drake London in this past draft. He's probably going to be wide receiver 2. I know he's kind of dealing with some injury that he faced in the past preseason game against the Lions, but he should be fine. And then they got Bryan Edwards, which is, he's okay. He's okay. At tight end, they have Kyle Pitts and Anthony Firkser. Of course, Kyle Pitts is going to be the tight end one. Anthony Firkser, if they want to run a tight end set, is pretty reliable, in my opinion. And at kicker, they have Younghoe Koo, which is another solid kicker that we're going over. He's very reliable, and, I have him on my team. Only notable defensive players really I could find on the Atlanta Falcons defense is A.J. Terrell and at corner and Lorenzo Carter at linebacker. I don't think their defense is going to be all that good, which may hurt them significantly this season. My top 3 fantasy picks, this was kind of hard, maybe controversial to some. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say in the comments if you come across this video. Kyle Pitts easily at the 1. He's going to be a top 7, maybe even top 5 tight end this year in fantasy. Should have a big year. And with Marcus Mariota being mobile, it's going to give him more time to get open and whatnot. Even, you know what? My second best fantasy option for the Atlanta Falcons right now, if you want to draft anybody out of Atlanta, would be Younghoe Koo at kicker. He's very reliable to kick from distance, and I think Atlanta will be very capable of getting into some close range field goal opportunities for Koo. And here comes the controversy. I have Cordell Patterson in my top 3, but he's 3. He's behind Younghoe Koo and he's behind Kyle Pitts. I think Cordell Patterson did have somewhat of a fluke fantasy season. Kyle Pitts was kind of, he was a rookie. He's still getting new to the playbook and whatnot. And then you had Calvin Ridley going through those mental issues last year. So I think Cordell Patterson was very 1-1. Matt Ryan, not very mobile quarterback, could dump it off to him. And he's fast, he's elusive, and he got loose for very big yards. And, he was the main target. So I think he takes a step back, and maybe not a major step back, but a step back from last year. But, I'd still draft him. I'd say a low-end running back 2 flex option for sure if you want to draft. Notable, I only have 2. Drake London. We don't know who he's going to be, but like I said, Calvin Ridley is out for the year. So Drake London could very well slip into that wide receiver 1 as a rookie since, their backup wide receiver is Bryan Edwards right now, if Drake London doesn't, play 1 or 2 weeks because of his injury. So he's definitely gonna be the 1-1. Actually, I don't know what I'm saying. He's definitely gonna be the 1-1. And then Marcus Mariota, I guess, if you're in a pretty big league like 10-12 people, Marcus Mariota could be a good quarterback option in the long run, like late round as your maybe a backup. He's mobile. Mobile quarterbacks are the trendy way. I can make another video on that about how the fantasy landscape has changed. I probably will, because there's a lot to discuss on that. But yeah, Marcus Mariota, mobile quarterback. He fared pretty well in his first couple drives against the Lions. Lions, don't really, their defense is unknown, but those yards count. Thanks guys for tuning in. Maybe tomorrow or today I'm going to get into the B teams. So make sure you stay tuned and subscribe if you're new, if you want to join the community.